Welcome, everyone. Hope everybody's doing okay. I would have made that video a little longer, but that's unfortunately all the photos that I could find of the boys uh, in such short notice. Um, I mean, I guess I could have looked into other people's Facebooks and all that, but I just wanted to do just a little something because make no mistake, um, this is about them. Now their their names haven't been officially released yet, but I'm sure that they will. I have no doubt in my mind that they will. I'm sure that we're going to get official updates from law enforcement or the DA coming up with a little bit more detail. Hopefully, we'll see. And I'm not here to try to figure out uh, necessarily exactly what happened. But these things now, for those of you who don't know why we're here, just a few days ago, a man in um, Claremont County, Ohio, uh, executed um, three of his sons. Um, it's not even easy for me to talk about. Um, they were ages 3, 4, and 7, and um, now I don't really know exactly what that's why we're here, because there's some really bizarre behavior coming from him, despite the obviously extremely heinous crime that he committed. But there's some strange behavior surrounding that, which should be expected considering the nature of the crime. But the fact that we have some access to this behavior, some video footage access to this behavior, helps us to explore this a little bit better. I feel, and that's why we're going to be here today, because I know, listen, none of us are mental health experts, none of us are criminologists, none of us are any of these things. But I'm sitting here for the last couple of days just trying to understand, because this is what happens when these cases happen. I just sit here and I go, why? I don't fucking get this. Like, why? Um, so I figured I would kind of do that with you guys as much as possible, because I know that there's a lot of you following this as well and trying to understand it. Um, and I'm seeing a lot of hate towards this man, and rightfully so. I do understand that, but again, we're and there's no excuse for his actions. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm trying to make excuses for his actions, because I don't have any basis to make excuses for his actions anyway. Um, and I'm just as angry as you are about the fact that these three little boys lost their lives at the hands of the person that they trusted and looked up to most. Um, I get that. And yes, it was allegedly planned, premeditated. But I'm really glad that you worded it that way, perfectly imperfect, because it is allegedly, only allegedly planned. We don't know the facts. Um, it's very, it's we have to look at everything very, very carefully. Just because the DA said so in the arraignment, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case. Um, so until we get access to the police interview / interrogation where they got this confession, um, and until the 26th of June comes around, when we have another hearing, we're not going to get definitive answers to the questions that we're going to be asking here today. Um, so no evidence has been shared yet. We don't have any idea what the nature of this was, but most importantly, we don't know what the motive was. Um, that's what I'm trying to understand here. Obviously, this man did what he did. Obviously, he confessed to it, apparently, allegedly, according to the prosecutor. Um, and uh, and in the body cam footage, which we'll go over, we see um, that he did not put up any type of a fight. Um, so a lot of weird behavior going on here. One of his neighbors said that, Lil Smokey. One of his neighbors said that. Again, you know, where do we? This is where we got to be careful, folks, because do we get to pick and choose the credibility of the neighbors? Like, you know what I mean? Like in the Summer Wells case, the neighbors, we take that shit with a grain of salt. That's hearsay, that's whatever. But in a case like this, where we're so angry and we want justice so bad, all of a sudden we got to be careful that the neighbors aren't, whatever they say isn't gospel just because they're saying things that make it easier for us to process this horrible crime. So let's be careful, folks. Let's be careful. So I'm taking everything that's being said in this case with a grain of salt. Everything so far. But we're going to explore a little bit here. Let me go ahead and read the article to get you guys up to speed in detail here. So Chad Doerman, 32, who is also accused of wounding the boy's mother at the family's home, has been charged with aggravated murder, authorities said. Clermont County's chief prosecutor of municipal court, David Gast, said during Doerman's arraignment that one of the boys tried to flee into a nearby field, but Doerman hunted his son down and brought him back to their home before killing him. Doerman's bail has been set to $20 million. Court records do not indicate whether he was represented by a lawyer at his arraignment. He is currently being held in Clermont County Jail. Gast called the killings the worst crime he'd ever seen. Deputies responded to the home in Monroe Township after receiving a pair of 911 calls. One apparently from the mother, who was screaming that her babies had been shot, and another from the passing motorist who said a girl was running down the street saying her father was killing people. A news release from the Clermont County Sheriff's Office said. Now, I want to clear some stuff up about this article. First of all, I don't know yet if the mother of these kids is his current wife or ex-wife. I honestly do not know. And the girl running down the street saying her father was killing people, she was actually saying her stepfather was killing people. That is her stepfather, not her father. The three boys are his, but the teenage girl is his stepdaughter, as I understand it. And I can't really see chat right now as I'm reading, so I apologize, guys. The deputies found three boys, ages 3, 4, and 7, outside the home with gunshot wounds and tried to save their lives, but the children died at the scene. They held these children knowing there was nothing they could do, Gast said. How do you unsee that sort of abomination? The boys' names have not been released. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, and guidance in all things, Gast said. He was their world. He was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. The sheriff's office said the 34-year-old mother, who was not identified, was outside the home and had suffered a gunshot to the hand while trying to shield her sons from their father. She was transported to a hospital with injuries that did not appear to be life-threatening. Doerman was found sitting on a stoop at the home and was taken into custody without incident. He was arraigned on 3 counts of aggravated murder. Officials have not released a motive behind the shootings. Neighbors in Monroe Township, which is about 120 kilometers west of Columbus, reported hearing several shots fired in what they said is usually a quiet, calm neighborhood. I was sitting in the garage and all of a sudden I hear boom, boom, and like 5 more. And I was like, that's 7 shots. Alex Spoonamore told WLWT TV in Cincinnati. I'm shaking. It was a lot. It was bad. Let me go ahead and play this real quick. There's a lot of videos on this. Yes, this is in Ohio.
In the meantime, before we go to a quick commercial break, we have one more very, very tragic story we want to bring to you, this time out of Ohio. Take a look at this. This is what we know. An Ohio man there, you can see, accused of fatally shooting his 3 young sons. Well, he admitted to planning the killings, and he lined them up before executing them with a rifle, according to prosecutors. So let's get into more of what we know. His name is Chad Doerman, 32 years old. He's also accused of wounding the boy's mother at the family's home. He's been charged with aggravated murder. Clermont County's chief prosecutor of municipal court, David Gass, said during his arraignment today that one of the boys tried to flee into a nearby field, but Doerman hunted his son down and brought him back to their home before killing him. This is a horrible story. His bail has been set at $20 million. He's being held in the Clermont County Jail. Deputies responded to the home. This was in Monroe Township, Ohio, shortly before 4:30 p.m. yesterday after receiving a pair of 911 calls. One, apparently from the mother who was screaming that, quote, her babies had been shot, and another from a passing motorist who said a girl was running down the street saying her father was killing people. This is according to a news release from the Clermont County Sheriff's Office. The deputies found 3 boys, aged 3, 4, and 7, outside the home with gunshot wounds and tried to save their lives, but the children died at the scene. And so the boys' names have not yet been released. And the sheriff's office said the 34-year-old mother, who was not identified, was outside the home and had also suffered a gunshot wound to the hand. She was transported to a hospital with injuries that did not appear to be life-threatening. Well, he was found, Chad Doerman, the suspect, 32 years old, sitting on a stoop at the home and was taken into custody without incident. He was arraigned on 3 counts of aggravated murder today. So we just wanted to get that headline in there. Very, very difficult to read. Out of Monroe County in Ohio, that suspect there.
Okay, so yeah, so even for that news reporter, that was a difficult thing to read. Sean B, I don't think that he's gonna get out of prison, if I'm being completely honest. The question is whether or not Ohio has the death penalty in it or not. But we'll get into all that in a minute. Let me now we're gonna go ahead and check out the arraignment, the bond hearing. So
State of Iowa is Chad Doerman, 2023 CRA 1975. This matter is before the court today for purposes of bond hearing. Mr. Callum, you were here on behalf of Mr. Doerman.
okay, now as you see, he's wearing right now what when someone is on suicide watch in jail, they're given what he's wearing right now, which I think they call it a turtle vest or something to that effect. There's you basically it's so you can't You can't tear anything to hang yourself with. There's literally nothing that you can do to hurt yourself, or at least they cover every possible way to leave you in your cell alone. And there's a lot of things that come with suicide watch, which is they document your behavior, as we learned from the Letitia Stout trial. I'm sure there's things that are with different terminology in different states, but I'm pretty sure the procedures are generally the same, no matter what the state. So, yeah, and it looks like it's bulletproof as well. It looks like it's probably Kevlar under there, somewhere in there. So, just to give you an idea, so I'm pretty certain that this guy has mentioned probably suicide, or they just made the judgment call that someone who just executed his 3 young sons would probably be a suicide risk. So they just took those kind of precautions, I would assume.
Mr. DeCalvi, Mr. Guest, on behalf of the state of Ohio. Mr. Calmas-Devon, go ahead, sir.
As bond, Your Honor, he is 32 years old. He lives in Richmond, married, is employed. He indicates that his relatives, Gloria Doerman, Todd Frost, and Tim Doerman, may act as co-signers for him. At this time, Your Honor, he would.
Okay, so his parents, they just named his parents in a third party who would be acting as co-signers in order to put up his bond if need be. But as far from what I understand, I think generally speaking, it's 10% that you got to come up with, right? 10% for a bond. So 10% of $20 million is a lot. I don't think that anybody's coming up with that unless they're really well off and they really believe in this guy's innocence to some degree.
A bond of $75,000 for the conditions to be revoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeCalvi.
Judge Mark DeCalvi, Claremont County Prosecutor on behalf of the state. At this point, I'm going to let Mr. Gast handle the bond. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Judge, we've got law enforcement with us here today. Our office has been involved. Lots of different offices have been involved with law enforcement throughout yesterday, afternoon, evening, all the way through this morning. And the facts I have for you at this point are as follows.
Sophia, we're going to get into that.
That this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all.
Okay, see, this is why I love having a chat. So, what does that mean? What does a surety bond mean? I know what cash means, but what does surety bond mean?
The rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about the volume. It's the best. Guys, please try to refrain from complaining about the sound. I assure you that I have taken any precaution that I can to make sure that you guys can hear it as best as possible. But these court hearings, they're not designed for our entertainment. They're not designed so that we can hear. They're designed so that the judge can hear, and so that the judge only can hear. And in a trial, it's designed so that the jury can hear. If we don't get to hear as much, it's just the way that cookie crumbles. I'm sorry. It's just how it is.
In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation.
Now, at this point, you see him, and he is clearly showing some emotion. Now, whether this is just a manipulative act for the judge or what, I don't know. But the thing is, what does he really have to gain here? As far as like, I mean, does he really think he's gonna get out on bond? Does he think that the bond is going to be affordable? What does he have to gain by showing the judge this type of emotion is what I'm curious about.
To save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun the father was wielding to attempt to protect them. We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, the father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property.
Now, pay close attention as well to the officers. The guy on the far right, the corrections officer on the far right, is really struggling with his own emotions here. This is not the kind of crime that this community is used to dealing with. This is not a normal thing for them at all, not even close. So it's very, very interesting to see how people react. We're also going to go over the body cam footage that took place. I might have to steal that from another creator because I don't know if I have the full body cam footage or not. I think I do. Yes, I do. It looks like I do. But it's interesting to see that these officers tend to wear their hearts on their sleeves despite their needing to be professional, and they still maintain professionalism for the most part. The arresting officers, but the thing is I don't think that they stepped out of bounds in order to hurt the case. But you could tell that these men were clearly shocked at what they saw. They have to go home and kiss their family, and it's my heart just goes out to them.
Property and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. Judge, I asked the court in setting this bond to just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. Man they trust more than any other person on earth. The person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission.
Okay, now I hate interrupting this attorney's very heartfelt and very emotional statement to the judge. But I have to say, guys, one of the reasons why we're going over this is to be careful with the information. Okay. We want to be careful with misinformation. It's very, very important. That's not something we do here. Is we don't let our emotions get the best of us. It's okay to be emotional. We do the best we can to be emotional, but we don't want our emotions to get in the way of logic. It's very important. That's just not something that I want to be in the practice of here on this channel. So let's just be careful moving forward. Okay. I understand a lot of emotions are stirring and emotions are high. Let's just try to keep them in check when it comes to processing the information that we get.
By that same admission, Judge, he has committed one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see. To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the events of this day. This did not happen on a whim. He's confessed to what I believe is the worst crime, at least I hope, that I'll see in my lifetime. I hope it's the one.
Okay, now these are obviously real emotions. Otherwise, this guy deserves an Oscar. But the question remains, what is he emotional about? Is he emotional about what he did? Is he emotional about the loss of his sons, that he's never going to see them again? Is he emotional about letting his family down? Is he emotional about getting caught? But he's clearly emotional. That's something that can't be denied.
The worst fact pattern that ever comes before this court. Judge, it's important for the court to know in the bond we're going to request today, for the court to understand
Welcome, LNC.
Monroe County deputies, Monroe Township Fire and EMS, and other first responders bravely respond to the scene where they don't know what's going on. They did not know what they're facing, and they come into a scene that no one can ever be prepared for. No law enforcement training, no training of any kind prepares you for this.
See, now a lot of you aren't going to like what I'm going to say right now, but I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, sorry, but do I feel bad for these officers? Of course I do. Do I feel bad for any of the first responders or anybody who has to deal in this case and has to deal in it directly? Of course I do. But the thing is you have to understand that these people signed up for things like this to possibly happen and to have to be the ones to deal with it when nobody else is. So to me, and I'm just thinking out loud here, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's responsible to use the feelings of the first responders as a way to sway the judge to make certain decisions. Do you see what I'm saying? And I realize this is, I realize this may sound a little shitty, but I'm just saying, no matter what town this takes place in, no matter what area this takes place in, whether it's a high crime area or whether it's not, the fact of the matter is, if you sign up to be a law enforcement officer, you are supposed to prepare yourself for just about anything, mentally, emotionally, as best as you can. That's not to say, screw those cops' feelings, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, should it have bearing into a legal decision how the cops felt, how the first responders felt? That's where I'm at.
It's easy to forget that these are men and women with families, children, feelings, emotions. They're not some automaton performing a delegated function. They're people. They were required to give CPR to gunshot children, 3, 4, and 7-year-old children. They held these boys in their arms, knowing there was nothing they could do to save them. How long do those scars last? What day do you wake up from that and you're healed? How do you unsee such an abomination? How do you unsee what day? No. knowing there was nothing they could do to save him.
He's breathing heavily. He's very angry. He's definitely trying to hold his emotions. I don't know if my mic was muted before, but I'm just going to repeat it. The gentleman with the mustache here, where my cursor is, I'm not sure if you could see it, but gentleman with the watch, not wearing gloves, not the guy on the far right in this shot, but to the left of him, to the left of the man on the far right. You could tell that he's struggling with his emotions and trying to keep his anger in check.
How long do those scars last? What day do you wake up from that? And
See that? See that? Let me play that one more time. Watch this guy here.
how long do those scars last? What day do you wake up from
He looks
that?
over at him, rolls his eyes,
Heal.
takes a breath, looks at him one more time.
Such an abomination. Bond factors this court needs to consider today are set forth in Criminal Rule 46, nature and circumstance of the crime charged, and specifically whether the defendant used or had access to a weapon, including the seriousness of the offense. It's the most serious offense that we have on the books, Judge. This is it. You can't commit a more serious offense. So the nature of the crime charge is the worst crime that can be charged. Did he have access to a weapon? Yes, obviously he did.
See, and I see everybody's so mad, and I'm mad too, but this is a really interesting case in the sense that, because I'm really doing my best to keep my emotions to the side of it. Calamity Jade says, give the guy 5 minutes in a room with that piece of shit. My emotions tell me the same thing, but the problem is with that, let's say a corrections officer is pissed off about what any of these officers had to see or experience, right? And then they take matters into their own hands. Am I going to cry? Yeah. But I'm not going to shed a tear for the guy who got hurt. I'm not going to shed a tear for this piece of shit who killed his kids. But I am going to cry for the justice system. So, guys, we got to be careful here. If we're believers in the justice system, we've got to try to put our feelings aside, or at least in check. Not put our feelings to the side, but at least keep them in check when discussing a very sensitive case like this, because there is tons of emotions going on here from everyone, and for the sake of the justice system itself, it's important that we can't cherry pick when we want due process to be a thing. Everyone has rights, including this guy. He has rights. As much as we hate it, but we don't get to cherry pick who has rights and who doesn't. We have to be very careful. That's how the justice system ends up becoming in jeopardy.
The weight of the evidence against the defendant at this point, Judge, we stand here with a full admission of the defendant. That also goes to the confirmation of the defendant's identity, and witnesses on scene did see at least part of what happened. Next, the court is to consider the likelihood this person would return to court if a bond were issued. Again, this is the most heinous crime with the most severe penalty under the law that we presented to the grand jury. That alone would be a major factor in discouraging the person from availing themselves of this court or any other. And
this is what I'm talking about. See, Beverly here is in my chat saying he is showing absolutely no emotions. That's just a blatantly wrong statement. I went over this before. Maybe you just joined us. He is showing emotion. The question is what he's showing emotion for. That's in question. But what's not in question is whether or not he is showing emotion. He's clearly showing emotion. But so many of us just see what we want to see. You know, so many of us just see what we want to see in order to just and yeah, Sealy or whatever your name is, you're pissing Cherry off. I suggest you don't do that. It's my recommendation to you. This is an example, Beverly, and I hate to put you out there like that, but if you comment in my chat, your comments are subject to something. You're subject to criticism. You're subject to my commentary on your comments. It's how it is. You're saying he is showing absolutely no emotions. It's very interesting how we'll tell ourselves things like this in order to validate our own emotions, that will allow our eyes to see what we want them to see in order to justify our own emotions. And that is the biggest problem in this community, in my personal opinion. That is one of the roots of the problems in this community. So we have to be very, very careful.
Thought to flee and the likelihood of flight is great in the state's opinion. The danger he poses to the community is a factor that this court can consider, and I think with the facts in front of you, Judge, we can't name a person.
All right, I'll indulge this little argument, Beverly. Okay, you're saying the guy did the crime. Yeah, we know it. There's no denying that the crime took place and he's the one responsible. But every little detail where you try to spin some sort of narrative to make the guy out to be whatever he is in your mind, that's not helpful to creating and perpetuating awareness. It's not helpful at all. So we're not disputing whether or not, I mean, this isn't, we don't discuss just black and white, guilty or not guilty here. Nobody's denying the fact that he's responsible for the crime, but we don't know the circumstances of it yet, do we? Necessarily. We don't have a motive
That poses a greater threat to the community. As his prior record goes, Judge, it is fairly minimal. He was charged with domestic violence in 2010. He is not, to my knowledge, on probation committee control. Judge, the facts of this case are hopefully like no other we will ever see. When this case gets indicted in the Court of Common Pleas, I am certain that a no bond hearing will be held, and I would hope that would be granted. But at this point, this juncture, we're going to ask this court to issue a bond we've never asked for before. I'm going to ask for a bond of $20 million. I hope I never need to request such a bond.
Now, he just asked for a bond for $20 million. I'm not an attorney, okay? I don't know how the law works any more than your typical layman. But I don't know how the law works in Ohio, Claremont County. I honestly don't know what they base bond on and whether or not somebody gets bond or they don't get bond. What's up, Ken's Counseling Couch? Whether they get bond or a high bond versus a lower bond, I don't know how that works. I feel as though I mean, I don't know if again, this is a thinking out loud stream, guys. This is why I'm doing this, is because we don't have a lot of answers, and we have a lot more information than we would normally have, like body cam footage, like an arraignment recorded. But we also, again, we don't have motive. We don't have the interview that took place to where he confessed and what was said. We don't know how those questions were asked and what form they were asked. We don't know what context things that are being said here were actually said in the interview room. We honestly, we don't have any of this information yet. So we've got to be careful about the conclusions that we jump to. But the $20 million bond, I'm going to have to say, I mean, why he didn't say we're asking for no bond? Probably maybe because maybe he's not a flight risk. I mean, I really don't know. I'm just saying that a lot of people are asking, how did he get bond at all? How the hell did he even get bail? Well, I don't know the circumstances in which you can, you determine that in Claremont County, much less, I mean, the state of Ohio. I don't know. I don't know. So Little Chickadee, that's debatable, but not the first part of your statement. You're absolutely right. The parents are the ones to protect their children, to keep them safe and love them and care for them. But your last part of that statement is what is debatable, in my opinion. Motive is not required in criminal prosecution. I don't know. That might depend on the state too. I don't know. But I'm curious. I'm very curious as to what the motive is. And that just comes from the place inside me that wants to understand better. That's all that is. Now, I want to be very clear. For anybody who thinks that I'm defending this guy, trust me, I'm not. I'm of the opinion that once you show that you're capable of doing something that heinous and disgusting, you don't get to be part of my society anymore. You're not allowed. You're booted. You're out. Get out. You should be locked up or put to death, whatever state you're in, depending on what their, what their policies are on the death penalty, whether or not the death penalty is a thing there or not. It's not for me to say. But we still don't know whether or not he's mentally ill. We don't have any. We don't know anything about that. And I'm the first person that's like, well, people just use that excuse to get away with crimes and blah, 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 just like Letitia Stout. I had not one shred of me believed that she was not aware of what she did and not aware of the consequences. I don't think there was any part of me that believed that there was one shred of innocence in Letitia Stout. But in this case, it's still early, and I don't know. If someone turns out to be mentally ill, depending on the diagnosis, depending on what it is, it doesn't justify the crime, but it makes it a little easier to understand. And the question is whether there was malice, whether it was an act of evil through malice, because it's obviously an act of evil. There's nothing that's not evil about murdering 3 young boys. Question is, what was going through his mind at the time? That's the question.
Thank you. Date for preliminary hearing?
And before it gets to, because right here, we're going to get into something else that's very, that's a big topic of conversation. Now, before we get into that, some of you might be wondering why I'm even bothering to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. 2 reasons. One, because we don't have enough information yet. I know that's hard to say. I know that's hard to some of you are going, what the fuck? What do you mean you don't have enough information? He confessed to it. He did it. He did it. He's guilty. What are you talking about? Well, again, we don't know the circumstances which drove his actions. We don't know anything as far as that goes, which I've been talking about. The second is, as far as giving him the benefit of the doubt, this is a guy who only his neighbors have said, and only one neighbor that I heard say that he was abusive and controlling to his wife and blah blah blah. But other than that, now this is also very biased. His father stated publicly that he was a super dad, quote unquote. That he was very involved in everything that they did extracurricularly. This was not some guy who, I mean, but by the appearance of the photographs and everything, it seemed like he was a very involved, loving father. And again, I'm very, very curious as to what could have caused someone who seemingly was such a great, loving father to do something this horrible. That's what really makes me more curious than emotional. Because normally, guys, you know me, when I cover these cases and then something like this happens, I'm like, you know, I get really, really mad. But I'm getting a Chris Watts vibe from this case. Now, hear me out. Chris Watts was a very loving, caring father. Nobody denied that. And then out of nowhere, he annihilated his whole family, including his pregnant wife. No explanation. Now, there was an explanation. There's my theory was the Nicole Kessinger thing. No, I don't think Nicole Kessinger was involved. But I believe that she tied his feelings for her tied into his decision to do what he did for whatever reason. Because things like this go beyond someone being a great dad on the, you know, on the surface. Things like this go beyond that. My theory on Chris Watts was that Chris Watts was basically a mama's boy and needed a woman to take care of him. And he wanted to be with Nicole, didn't want to be with Shanann anymore. Very shallow reason, very shallow motive. And he was basically just a whiny bitch who didn't want to be alone and decided to use the fact that his family was missing to try to gain sympathy from Nicole Kessinger and hopefully use that to manipulate her into staying in his life and never leaving him. That's my personal theory. That's always been my theory. That's what it is to this day, and nothing's going to change that unless new information that is verifiable comes out, and it hasn't. So, right, personal gain, right. I don't know if this seems different. This seems more like a mental health thing, Hackup. This seems more like a mental health thing to me so far. But apparently his dad says that there was no history of mental health. But his dad also said that he wasn't violent. Yet he got a domestic violence charge for choking his dad back in 2010, I believe. So that doesn't make sense. So right now his father doesn't hold a whole lot of credibility with me. He seems very biased. And he seems to just be very protective of his son, which is understandable. But to say outright that he's not violent after he was arrested for choking you, sorry, dude. Don't tell me that he's not violent when he, put his hands around your throat and tried to kill you.
For the preliminary hearing, Judge, is 6/26.
No objection, Your Honor.
The preliminary hearing will be set for June 26th at 1 p.m. At this point in time, bond's going to be set in the amount of 20 million cash or surety. Anything else at this time, Mr. Gast?
No, Judge.
Mr. Cal?
Okay.
Mr. Cal, anything further?
Nothing at this point.
Everybody
Anything else
wants
at
to
this
know what
time,
he's
Mr.
saying here.
Gast?
No, Judge.
Mr.
I did what I'm about to do about, I don't know, maybe 150 times a couple hours ago.
Cal? Cal?
Now, that last part, I'm 98% sure what he said was CCO2, whatever that means. Now, there's a lot of different terminology when it comes to facilities that are holding people. I'm of the opinion now. I mean, I Googled a bunch of shit. Cherry Googled a bunch of shit. We were just trying to figure out. She Googled it. She Googled CCO2 as far as what it pertains in within a legal aspect. That means what she came up with was nothing but civil stuff, pretty irrelevant stuff. And I Googled CCO2, and then it showed something to do with that has something to do with blood, hemoglobin, and oxygen. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist. I you know, it's pretty. It's probably closer to like 8th grade science, and even still, beyond me. But I don't see how that pertains to what is going on here. Now, I kept looking, and I saw that what I came up with was a site in New York. Hold on. I did it through my phone. I wish I could pull it up here. So hold on. Let me okay, so what I came up with was it's New York, not Ohio. And New York State of Opportunity, whatever that is. It says Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. Okay. And a CCO2 is a disenrollment and transfer form. So that made sense to me. So I started thinking, is he from New York originally? And does he have a mental health? Does he have history? Does he have a history with mental health issues? Right. There's all kinds of things. Like Cherry also put together that CCO stands for Claremont County, Ohio. Right. So could he have been saying CCO2 as in two as well as CCO as well? So I was trying to figure out what he was saying at the beginning. And when I came up with this thing here, hold on a second. I had to sneeze. I'm sorry. The CCO2, that makes the most sense to me. Him being in his arraignment, there's probably some sort of terminology that has to do with it's probably a similarity between that and New York, where he was requesting a transfer to. That's just my guess. I want to be very clear about this. That's just my guess. My guess, based on the little bit of things that I was doing here, as far as searches go, the best guess that I could come up with is that he was wanting to, when, because I mean, the circumstances are the judge asked, is there anything else? The lawyers were all like, nope, nothing. And then he spoke up and said what looked to me like he said, transfer me to CCO2. I want to play it one more time.
Yes.
No.
Sir, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or come for me at CCO2 or something. Now also let's take into consideration that he is under suicide watch, which means he's more than likely under some sort of mental health care, and he could be heavily medicated right now. Right, that's what Sherry said, Murica, Claremont County, but and then possibly a term for protective custody as well. Now, obviously, if either one of those is the case, then what he's looking for is he's obviously self-serving. He wants to either be in a mental health facility, transferred to a mental health facility, or he wants to be put in protective custody. Now, if he's under suicide watch, he's not in any interaction with anyone except the assigned corrections officer that is assigned to that particular wing of, or how many there are of that particular unit. And I would say a nurse, not a doctor, but a nurse, or a nurse's assistant to some degree, somebody with some sort of nursing degree that's qualified to distribute medication, not prescribe, but distribute. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. But overall, I'm coming to the conclusion that we're just kind of overthinking what he said right there. So I would kind of put that to rest, and I wouldn't let that distract us too much. Trust me, I went over it vigorously. I just kept playing it in slow motion over and over and over and over and over again. And the best thing that I could come up with is he was looking for some sort of transfer.
So, Cal, anything further?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you.
Now, there was another part of this that
They're not some automaton. Judge, it's important for the court to know and the bond we're going to request today. For the court to understand, Claremont County deputies, Monroe Township Fire and EMS, and the judge for this court. Crime, at least I hope, mission, he planned the events of this day. This did not happen on a whim.
I want to see. I don't have the timestamp for it, but hold on.
By that same admission, Judge, he is committed and he executed in cold blood. We know that from his admission. One person here to just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man.
Maybe hold on. I think there's a better. Let me see something here. Guys, give me a second. Let me because there was a shot of him that I want to go over that I didn't see in that footage. And I saw it in other footage. I don't know. Maybe it was in that one. Okay, this is it. Maybe not. No, that's not it. This is going to drive me crazy. Okay.
Grabbed the gun the father was wielding to attempt to protect him. We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down. We know is impossible process. The community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process. In an act of just incomprehensible
Here we go.
cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun that father was wielding to attempt to protect them. We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. Judge, I asked the court setting this bond to just begin to imagine their fear. Looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. Man, they trust more than any other person on earth. Person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. By that same admission, Judge, he has committed one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see.
Right there. Watch him.
To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act.
You see that? So as soon as he clearly reacts, as soon as he says cowardly, you could see some rage in him as he looks over to the prosecutor for pointing it out and calling him a coward. Watch that one more time.
Act again. Monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see.
He processes that and then he looks
To make
over.
things even more disturbing, Judge. This
See that?
was no haphazard act again by his own admission.
Like, how dare you call me a coward? You know what I mean? Like, he has the audacity to sit there and act like, yeah, all that stuff is true and whatever, but you're going to call me a coward? No, bro. Like that's definitely cowardly. Because my theory is that, let's say there's no mental health issues at all. My theory is that this was a pure rage thing. This is if there's no mental health issues to speak of. Okay. I want to be very clear about that. So if this was just a pure rage thing, let's try to explore why someone would do something. So what kind of mind are we dealing with? Right? Are we dealing with somebody who is that brazen? If it was pure rage, then what's going through his mind? I'm going to murder this family in front of anyone and everyone. It doesn't matter who. One of them's going to run. I'm going to chase him, and then I'm going to bring him back, and then I'm going to execute him the way that I planned, and I don't give a fuck who sees it. And in his mind, he's thinking that's what somebody with balls would do. I'm not going to hide from the cops. I'm not going to try to cover up my crime. This is what I decided to do, and I'm going to fucking do it, and nobody's going to fucking tell me that I'm not justified in doing that. And I'm just speculating as to what was possibly going through his mind at the time. Because he just clearly got offended at the fact that this dude just called him a coward. That pissed him off. Here he was crying for seemingly what he did. And then as soon as the guy said a cowardly act, he gets, looks over at him with a glare of hatred. So we'll see. Now, trigger warning, guys, because we're going to go over the body cam footage real quick here. This is not easy to watch, but I want to get this moving because we're going to lighten things up after this. I'm actually going to do another live after this, just to lighten up the mood a little bit. And I don't want to be late for that because I only have so much time to do that one. Because I have other plans this evening. Now it's not muted. They don't add sound until. That's one way to look at it. That guns make murder so quick and easy, sadly. But they also make, now it doesn't apply in this case. I want to be very clear about that. But it's also much more humane than stabbing, just for the, just to make the point.
Negative. Sounds like we're getting another call from somewhere in the area. Right.
Go ahead.
Getting a call now from Misty advising that her grandfather told her that a female said that her grandfather was killing everyone in the house and that the female went to the fire station. Right.
ahead.
There's a male actively shooting at the firehouse. Stations on 99. Come reverting the rest of them.
Robert 63, how many houses down from the firehouse is this?
You're clear.
Supervisors aware of this. Yes, sir, you copy.
63, what's your ETA?
About 5-6 out. Strong Liddell, Nicholsville.
Some of the fire stations that advised to get inside.
See, these poor guys.
So everyone's aware.
These poor guys have no idea. Like, you know what I mean? They've never even heard of shit like this happening where they are.
There's somewhere in the mix. There's a 16-year-old
They don't know what they're gonna see.
female that ran from the original house and was going to the firehouse for help. Not sure where she's at now.
63, you're clear. Do we have a description on the male shooting?
Negative. This was called out that the shooting was occurred by the fire station. They all are back inside of the firehouse.
Yeah, see, we don't have details of that yet, folks. Be very careful about, whether or not, like, we don't know, and we probably won't know unless there's a trial. We don't need to know the manner of death exactly in which these poor kids died. We don't need to know what type of wounds they died from. We don't need to know that. That's not necessary information. That's morbid, crazy information that, I prefer not to even think about when it comes to small children, especially. Sometimes it matters in trying to break down these cases, but in this case, I don't think it's relevant at all. Bottom line is this guy killed his 3 kids and did it cold-blooded and did it without any care of consequences. All right, let me stop you right there. Laugh at life. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Have you ever heard of a coerced in confession? Excuse me. Coerced confession. Things happen. This guy could get a lawyer, and his lawyer could look at all of the evidence and then go, you know what? I could beat this case. I can get this case beat for you. So you never know. Just because he confessed to it, it doesn't mean that he was in the right state of mind. He could still have an insanity plea, all kinds of reasons why this could still go to trial. I personally hope that it does not. One thing about the Chris Watts case is I'm really glad that he pled guilty and it was over.
Traffic, your digital.
Get the fire.
Video is still digital, but the fire department is who told us that shots were fired.
That's another thing. If they're seeking the death penalty and plan on I mean, now I don't know if the death penalty is a thing in Ohio. I haven't even looked into that. But if the death penalty is a thing in Ohio and they can convict him on even if he pled guilty, and they could still give him and they could still convict him, and he could still get the death penalty, then he has nothing to lose, and he could absolutely, with the right attorney, fight it and hope to beat it in trial. Thank you, guys.
To the SO.
Male shooting the male light green.
Now you hear that engine revving up, man. Like, these cops are doing the best to get there as fast as possible.
Blue jeans on the front porch of 1965 Laurel.
Talk around 1.
6372, do you have traffic?
Negative.
Three children have been shot, not breathing. Additional call sounds like the shooter is the father of the children. Units in around 1965 Woodland. It sounds like the male's still on the porch. There are multiple children in the yard, non-breathers.
29, you're clear. Mile and a half out.
Now you hear that dispatcher, and she's explaining what they're going to be seeing when they get there, at least what's being reported to her, and the urgency with this particular officer is definitely apparent.
I'm putting aircraft standby.
For information on self for 20 miles past the Holly School.
I can't copy.
We're getting ready to be 37 here, so you just give us 99.
Let's just do it now. They said still the back channel. Top 1.
Yeah, cop cars aren't slow, man. They got some horsepower, so you could hear those horses.
The female that went to the firehouse is advising them that the male shot the entire family. You're clear.
Where's he at?
He said, shooter's on the porch.
Get him right here. Right here. You got him on the porch.
We've asked. That's the last place we've been told.
You
that
show me
he's
your hands now! Stand up and
Walk towards us!
Stand up now!
Walk towards us! Stand up with
Now, you could see that the officer on the right has what looks to be a semi-automatic weapon. These guys are not fucking around. They came with their rifles. They don't know exactly what they're going to deal with, so they brought firepower ready to deal with anything that they have to deal with. This is not their sidearm that they're using.
With your hands up!
Now, the one with the body cam, I think, is, but the one on the right, he's got a semi-automatic weapon here. Semi-automatic rifle.
Up!
We got a visual in the mail. Not showing his hands, not following commands.
Stand up now!
Not showing hands or following commands. His name is Chad Doerman. Chad Doerman.
I know, but we can't.
People need first aid and he's not complying. You know he's a shooter, shoot him.
We gotta find cover first. We ain't no good if we ain't safe ourselves. Hey, no. We need to come from this side where we can see them. Don't take cover behind her. We see them. We're going to approach from this side. We got.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody commentating in the chat and everything, but like, let's try to watch the spamming, okay? It's kind of annoying and it's disruptive to the rest of the chat.
Cover. Right here.
6 covered, 29 and 63 at type out.
Show us your fucking hands now. Stand up. Stand up.
Now, the squares, obviously, this is redacted to not show the graphic images of the deceased children. That's what these black squares are. I'm really glad that this was done. And you could see these guys are not pulling their punches as far as how they're delivering these instructions.
Stand up. Stand up now. Stand up. Stand up.
All right, now I'm going to play this in slow motion just so we can break down everything that's going on here.
Go.
Like, why he wouldn't follow the instructions is interesting to me, because he's not resisting. He's got a rifle right next to him. He's clearly a threat. So let's break that down for a second. Let's speculate as to why he didn't follow the instructions to a T from the officers, right? If he's fine with getting caught, he's not putting up a fight. But what I find interesting about that is I'm of the opinion, again, this is just my opinion. I'm of the opinion that he is contemplating, right, totally failed suicide by cop. To put it in a nutshell, this is a guy who is a coward, in my opinion. Absolutely a coward. Because I think that his plan, based on what I'm seeing, again, this is just my opinion, guys, all right? We don't have all the facts, but this is just my opinion. I feel that he, right. Now, Ken's counseling couch is a mental health professional, and I'm glad he's here to give reason. He's saying he could just still be processing what he did, and it took a second or two for it to register the cops' instructions. True, but I feel like they were pretty clear for a good amount of time there. You know what I mean? Processing, I mean, dude, like, he knows they're going to shoot him. His hands are up. Let's look at that one more time. See? His hands are clearly up. His elbows are resting on his knees, but he's deliberately showing his hands are empty.
EMS stage and air clear. Go ahead and fly whenever any.
So I think that he was kind of like indifferent about the cops shooting him, but didn't necessarily want the cops to shoot him. Darcy Miller, welcome. That's where I'm at.
Get your hands out of here. 21.
Now that looks like, now in one of the interviews they were saying that there was that the stepsister was running screaming call 911. According to one of the neighbors, she said that she was screaming call 911, my stepdad is killing everybody, is shooting everybody, sorry. And she had a black lab running along with her. I would say that that's the black lab.
It's in there. There's people in the first day, and that's the shooter. He's not complying. They need to take care of him. I got victims. They have to show him and shoot him. Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I'm completely sober. Never did drugs. 21. Get the EMS over here. Well, I did drugs with a foot, but I don't do drugs now.
Now, I want to be clear. I know that I slow things down a lot to be humorous on different types of content. That's not what I'm doing here. I have it slowed down simply because I want to be able to catch everything that we possibly can.
Sober.
And it's hard to tell with the dog barking and with the mom screaming in the background. And I want to know what she's saying, but I've tried to listen to it and I can't really discern it too well.
I'm not trying
The only thing that I could tell that she said was, he took my whole life, or something along those lines. He took my whole life.
You. Yeah, 63. Get your butt inside. Yellen, get your butt inside. We're on primary. Now. 29, we got 3.
Now, is he talking to the mom, saying, get your butt inside? I would like to think that he's talking to the neighbor, because not only, I mean, some of you are thinking, well, how could he talk to a victim like that? The reason why I'm hoping that he's talking to, maybe he's talking to the dog. What? Okay. Why he would like think that the dog's going to listen to him. I mean, I guess it's worth a shot. Maybe.
Man.
Okay, the mom just said they're dead, aren't they?
Yelling. 63 or 20.
And he's yelling at her saying, stop yelling.
Have EMS respond over here.
She's saying, what do I do?
You're clear, they're being advised.
Robert 34, just started a mass cast due response.
63, do you want them to respond to the Laurel Lindale address? Where exactly do you need them?
Right in the front yard.
He took my life from me, she said. My life.
What are you doing, man? Hey, are you talking Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody. You got anything on you? No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him.
Okay, so it was him. I didn't think that his voice was that clear. So it was him yelling at the dog, telling the dog to go inside. Is what it makes the most sense to me.
Pet him. He won't bite you. What's going on, man?
See, he's going out of his way to show them that he's not. No, okay. I know when I slow this down, it sounds like he might be intoxicated. That's just the effect that slowing it down does. I don't know if he's intoxicated, but if he sounds drunk, it's because of the slow motion effect that I have playing here. But he's going out of his way here to make sure that they know that he's not a threat. And the only reason that I could imagine why he would be so adamant about convincing the officers that he's not a threat is for self-preservation, so they don't hurt him.
Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable. I'm gonna get I ain't gonna do nothing. I ain't running away. You can do whatever you want.
Yo, homie, these officers don't give a fuck whether you're comfortable or not. I'm sorry, dude.
Here.
Now, I'm wondering if that's his truck.
You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside the house?
Yep.
Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
Now, how did he know that that's where she was going? Did he instruct her to run over there and tell the fire department? Did he say, run, go to the fire department across the street, run? Because the fire department is, it's not far away and it's across the main road. I don't have a map pulled up on it right now, but I'm there's a lot of things going through my mind about this. Now I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna have to borrow that's where that body cam footage ends, but I'm gonna have to borrow, I hope she doesn't mind, but I'm gonna have to borrow some of Annie's footage here. I don't think she'll mind. She'll be fine with it. But I have to find all right.
I ain't mad. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him. He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna get
I ain't
you
gonna
here
do
in a
nothing. I ain't
second.
running away. You
Bro, nobody gives a fuck about your comfort, dude.
Here. You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside
Yeah,
the house.
yeah.
Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
Yeah. Like you put him right in the back of the car. Like you don't waste any time. You don't sit there and get him in the car.
They're all being advised like two additional medics. There's also aircraft flying, so they need an LV and medic coming. Yeah.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket?
Shut up, dude.
my man said, shut up, dude. He was like, can I get the wallet out of my back pocket? Shut up, dude. Like, seriously, like.
Yeah, the right to remain silent. Fucking use it.
Yeah, he said, you got the right to remain silent. Fucking use it. And what's interesting, I mean, these are patrol cops, man. You know what I mean? These are uniformed patrol units. And they, you know what I mean? It's not their job to coerce confessions, or it's not coerce, but to get confessions. It's not their job to keep someone talking. Is it helpful? Sure. Why not? But this dude's duties have been fulfilled at this point. This officer's duties have been fulfilled. I do not blame him at all whatsoever for saying, shut the fuck up, because he doesn't want to hear it. There's going to be detectives that investigate the thing. They're going to sit down with him. They're going to talk to him. This is a guy who just saw 3 murdered small children. So please forgive him if he doesn't want to hear this motherfucker talk.
Yeah, I did when Chief and Captain were.
Hold on.
The craziest part of the body footage
He said, hold on. They didn't give a fuck. They just slammed the door. Shut the fuck up. Get your ass in there. Like, yeah, I think that these cops, considering what they just saw, considering that that's something that they probably never actually thought that they'd see in their entire careers, much less lifetimes. I think that they handled that with great restraint. Great restraint. Now, it's their job. Make no mistake about that. It's absolutely, totally their job. But they're still human beings. And they probably have families of their own. And yeah. God bless those officers, man. Seriously. It's also important, no matter the crime, all defendants should be treated equally under the law, from a misdemeanor to this. If not, each thing is potential point that could overturn a guilty verdict. Exactly. Well said, Ken's Counseling Couch. Appreciate it. And Victorine, thank you. Appreciate it. Glad you're here. So on the 26th of June, there'll be another hearing where I assume he will be pleading guilty or not guilty. Now, I'm really curious as to what he's going to plead. I mean, it feels like it would be a guilty plea. considering all of the evidence, considering his behavior in this body cam footage. He seems to not be trying to deny what he did. He's not making any excuses. He's, you know, but at the same time, the focus, there was definitely some self-preservation going on there, but the focus of his self-preservation was for his physical well-being, not so much his legal well-being. So I'm definitely considering that. Well, that's the thing. Kelly Green, I'm glad you brought that up. You're saying he may plead guilty to avoid the death penalty. Now, I did compare this case to, I compared how I thought of this case. I should word this more carefully. I compared how I thought of this case to the Chris Watts case. Now, whether or not he pleads guilty, whether or not the death penalty, the option of it to be off the table is a different story. We don't know that. That's not just because you plead not guilty. Hold on. Sorry. Calamity Jade is a member for 15 months. Welcome to the hoity goity. In many LE law enforcement body videos, people ask, where's EMS? We can't go until police gives us all clear. We're close, waiting, staging, and listening to dispatch. Okay. And Calamity Jade is an EMT. Thank you, Calamity Jade. So Calamity Jade is saying, yeah, you have to wait until, what are they going to run in there? And yeah, you got to wait. You got to wait till, they're not going to run in there. They're not armed. They're not going to run in there and get into harm's way themselves. But Kelly Green is saying he may plead guilty to avoid the death penalty. That's if the DA presents that as an option. They might just be like, no deal. We got you dead to rights and we're going to go for the death penalty. But according to somebody's comment that they put up earlier, saying that there's over 100 people on the death penalty or on death row right now in Ohio. I think they said 130, and nobody has been executed since 2018. So death penalty may not even be on the table based on that. But the thing is, again, they've never seen a case like this. The judge has probably never tried a case like this. The prosecutor has never prosecuted a case like this through his own admission. So, right, I saw that too, Ed Black. Thank you. So, again, just to elaborate on Kelly Green's comment there, it's not his call until the prosecutor puts that on the table as an option. But it may not even, depending on the state, depending on how things work in that state, it may not even be an option for him at all. They might just be like, nope, we don't care. You're going. You're getting executed, period. So, the boys are his kids, and the teenage girl is his stepdaughter. Now, I don't know what the circumstances are just yet. We have to find out what we needed to know more about this guy, and in order to assess what should happen to him. And maybe not for you. Maybe just the fact that he did what he did, crazy or not, mentally ill or not, he should be put to death. Maybe that's how you feel about it, and you're entitled to those feelings. I'm of the opinion, I like to try to just let the justice system do its thing. And if he ends up getting the death penalty, then so be it. But if if it's proven that he had some sort of break that was brought on by something that was valid, according to his father, who's obviously biased, but like according to his father, well, maybe, I'm willing to hear that, is all I'm saying. I'm willing to hear that. But my overall opinion is he definitely seemed coherent sitting on the porch. He definitely seemed coherent while they arrested him. And he definitely seemed self-serving, worrying about his comfort level. And people keep saying it was planned for 3 months, 3 months. You don't know that for sure yet. We only have what the prosecutor said in the arraignment. Anything outside of that is hearsay. Okay? I want to be very clear about that. Anything outside of that is hearsay. All right? We still do not have the footage from the interrogation / interview. We don't have any of that yet. So I'm very interested in seeing that footage. He had a DV charge for choking his father, as a matter of fact. But his father also said that he wasn't violent. So, like I said, his father's very biased. The credibility behind what he says, just based on that alone, I don't find to be very credible. So, I don't know. I don't know what the nature of his relationship with his wife was. I don't know if they were separated. I don't know if he was living in that little caravan that's in the front of the house. We don't have enough of those details yet to really assess what the nature of this crime necessarily was, what the motive was. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be following this case a lot more closely. Yes, the preliminary hearing is on the 26th. So, yes, that would technically be next week. Yes, next week, because today's Monday, right? So, yeah. And I know a few channels have there's the boys' names, and I don't see any harm in releasing the victims' names necessarily. I don't see any harm in that. But they are minors. I imagine that a lot of the information that we're going to get on this case is going to be limited due to the fact that they are minors. Now, until it's out there and confirmed, I don't feel comfortable sharing any names that mainstream media has not shared. So I'm going to be very careful about that. I definitely don't want to share the stepdaughter's name, if I can help it, for sure. Or even the mom's name, if I can help it. The last thing I want is for these people to not be able to deal with this situation in the most peaceful manner that reality allows for them. So I'm just not. Okay, thank you, Sherry. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm not faulting any other creators that have put their names out there yet. I just haven't seen those names released in any articles or anything like that. And so I don't feel comfortable doing it just yet until, but I mean, if the names are out there, then they're out there. And, the next time we talk about it, I'm sure the names will be out there and I'll go over that. But until then, I don't feel very comfortable doing that just yet. So I am going to wrap this up. But Some of my usual content that I go over, I'm going to be going over that stuff. As soon as I end this live, I'm starting another live. So if you guys want, and it's probably going to be a little bit more humorous because the whole situation's fucking funny to me as far as what I'm going to be talking about once I end this. So just for a few laughs, we're going to go over that. Try to lighten things up. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me. I love you guys very, very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends.